And I was always so focused about being better than other people. Well, in the racing. And then, I realized at some point you cannot control what other people can do. I mean, maybe that guy is training twice as much as you do, and you cannot, whatever you do, you cannot beat that person, right? So going into said, well, it doesn't really matter what the other people do. It matters what I put into this, and think about really the effort that I'm willing to put into something in order to get the results that I'm looking for.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast, hosted by Eric Nelson and brought to you by Wild Oak Capital. Eric is a real estate investor, business owner, and performance coach. Throughout this series, Eric explores the mindset behind why certain investors are so successful and how we can learn from their achievements and failures. Eric asks the tough questions around the habits, discipline, mindset, and more required to achieve the most ambitious goals. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Eric Nelson, and I have two awesome guests today. This is Jens Nielsen and Jason Pero. Thank you both for being here.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's kind of start with what we always start with is if you guys could each give me sort of your background, where you came from, what you used to do, and then what brought you into the real estate world.
Yeah, I can start. Up until about an hour ago, I used to be an IT professional, but this is my last day in my W-2 job. So I have a 25 plus year career in IT, but started investing in real estate about 5 years ago and have now been building that portfolio and to a big enough level that I was ready to retire from my job. And I'm also a coach. I coach new and experienced real estate investor, both on the real estate side, and then I'm a certified high performance coach. So I help people with mindset and personal growth and everything else. So that's kind of what I do in a short second here.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll come back to that. Jason, go ahead.
Sure. So my wife and I have been investing in real estate for 20 years. So graduated college in 99, shortly after started investing in real estate, and we both worked in medical sales. I was in medical device sales until 2012 when I was able to walk away from my day job. So we had primarily, built our self-owned real estate portfolio up until that point. Didn't do any syndication or super creative stuff at that point. But like Jens, also do some real estate coaching. We've partnered on a number of deals together, and so here I am today.
Okay, cool. Well, first let's start by congratulating Jens. This is a huge milestone, a big day for you. So we don't want to breeze over that. I mean, this is so cool, and there's so many reasons why it's cool. But you're kind of a case study in how you can be in W-2 corporate world, find a passion for something like real estate. Just put your head down and then have the goal of being out of it. And then here you are. So let's give the listeners kind of a taste. How long did it take you from when you said, okay, I'm going to start investing in real estate, to where you are now, which today is your retirement day from W-2 and corporate. So that's pretty cool. I just imagine you kind of sitting by a pool, sipping cocktails. I mean, that's your personality.
Yeah, right. That's all I'm going to do.
No, just kidding. Give us kind of that timeline.
Yeah, and it was actually funny because I was looking through my Google Drive and I found a document I had labeled January 2016, so a little over 5 years ago. And I was like, when I was really starting to figure out how do I need to get out of my W-2 job? I didn't hate my job, but I knew there was more. There was something more exciting to do and control my own destiny. And I found this document just like yesterday, the day before. And then this is 5 years and a couple of months ago, I did not own any investment real estate. I owned my own house. That was all. And I had put in that plans like, I should look into buying investment real estate 5 years ago. I bought my first property July of 2016. So it was less than 5 years ago. Just this couple of small fourplexes in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I lived in Durango like yourself, Eric, back then. Started out very small, a couple fourplexes, an 11 unit, without really a clear vision of where I wanted to go. It's like, oh, let me just buy some real estate and see where it takes me. And it took a while before I got, really serious about this to come to a point. I said, man, I need to scale this up much quicker in order to ever get out of my corporate job, right? And and a couple of things happened, and I had a couple of injuries from my cycling, and it kind of set me to like, man, I'll be 50 this year. It's like I'm not getting, my physical condition is not improving, and if I keep having these physical challenges, am I really going to be able to actually live the life of activity and everything if I just wait and keep working? I realized that was not aligned with my future. So I started taking much more action, like enrolled in the coaching program, started, partnering with people. And Jason has, been blessed to work with Jason on quite a few deals now. So it's just that idea of you can go quick by yourself, but you can go so much further with other people. And that's what I learned, and, started to find the right people to partner with. And, since then, to make a long story short, I think this year we'll probably hit about 1,000 units that we own, either a small number of them myself and a large number of them in various partnerships. And that's given me that cash flow, those other income to just, feel, hey, it's okay to step away from the so-called secure W-2 job, right? So here we are, less than 5 years later.
Yeah, that's so cool. Lots of people have that goal, right? Like the financial freedom thing, and whether or not they hit it depends on so many things. So, what I love about your story is that you took action. That's ultimately, in my opinion, a lot of times the separator is you wrote this thing down. It's pretty cool. You found that file and you said, I should invest in real estate. And then you kind of hammered it. And then there's one other thing. Well, there's a lot that you said in there, but one other thing was learning to scale. And this is kind of a shout out to you. So you, Jens, are my coach. And one thing that you taught me, basically, I would say first or second session, was get out of your own way and realize that partnering is so valuable. And it's also turns out to be one of my personal favorite things about the business. But all that to say is you realize that to scale, you had to partner. And so it seemed like, maybe let's just jump right into that. Jason, we'll come back to your sort of story, but how did you guys find each other, and how did that partnership start?
And I met Jason, I think, was it 3 years ago in January? I think we met.
Yeah.
Was it just 2 years ago? I even forget.
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago in January, we met at a conference in Florida. My mentor and we met there, and we just accidentally sat next to each other in one of the sessions and started talking and started hanging out. And Jason was getting ready to do his second syndication, a 205 unit deal in Erie, Pennsylvania, where he's from. And we started talking about it, and I felt like, oh, this sounds super awesome, and there could be some opportunities for me to help in various ways, right? I didn't have the level of experience that he does, but I had some other areas of expertise, and I came with an outside view because I lived in Colorado. He's in Pennsylvania, so there was a different view, seeing it differently, and when he got on a contract, I flew up there and I said, this is super awesome, man. I would love to be a part of that. And I think that was how I opened up. I was like, hey, what can I do to help you? That adding that value to it. And that's kind of how it all took off from there.
All right, Jason, what's your perspective of that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because, we met 2 years ago. So I was 17, 18 years in the business without really embracing partnerships up until that point. And so I had thought a lot about syndication probably in the decade ahead of that, and had just syndicated a deal the year prior and was gearing up for the second one. And, Jens and I hit it off, and I'd become friendly with one of his coaching students. And I think that was like the commonality thing at first was we both, knew the same individual. We, figured out how we, I started seeing the value of having, partners, and Jens and I, we had a few phone calls and got this deal under contract, and we really started becoming friends and enjoyed working together. And, it was funny because we closed this deal, we all worked, very hard on getting the deal across the finish line. And then several months later, I remember, we were at another meeting, and and Jens had made a comment. A lot of times people make comments about like, hey, how can I add value? How, we're always looking to add value to other people in relationships. And I said, hey, we're partners. You're always going to add value to me. We're just partners. It doesn't have to fit any set role. And I think part of that was me like opening up and saying, like there's a ton of like skills that we all maybe have the same of. There would be cross duplication of certain areas of expertise in a deal, but there's all these like seen and unseen talents that we all have. And that, we really enjoyed working together, realized that we could go much further together than separately. And I said, I don't care specifically how you add value. You add value, and hopefully I add value where we're teaming up and being able to do things together and becoming, greater together, not just in adding dollars and cents in terms of our real estate portfolio, but, I feel like, hey, good friendships and partnerships are where you grow as people and it's positive interactions and feel, you feel, better every time you talk as opposed to not. So, done some more deals together, and we've got a lot of plans for the future. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so cool. So one thing I heard was that you guys saw the unseen value in each other. And that's super cool because I think a lot of people do say what you said. I mean, you hear it all the time is how can I add value? But that's so much wisdom to say, hey, we're partners now. We're going to add value regardless. And it's kind of this trust thing, right? It's almost unspoken. So that's really, really good advice. And I actually reached out to Jens maybe 6 months ago about, how do you know when to partner with someone? And Jens, being the excellent coach he was kind of flipped it back on me. But the wisdom that came out of that was similar to what you said was, sometimes it's not a formula. Sometimes it's not, here's what you're looking for. A lot of times it can be unspoken. It seems like, Jason, I've just meeting you now. I know Jens pretty well, but it seems like clearly you guys are good partners. And so sometimes it's unspoken, right? So that's really cool to hear. So Jason, you mentioned that you invested for a long time before you did syndications, before you did partnerships. What did that look like? And then you also do management as well, correct?
So I'll start with the management. It's all vertically integrated, so we don't do any third party. Tried that a few times over the years on smaller stuff and just to get the toe in the water and see if that's something we really wanted to do. I feel like we manage very well our own portfolio, but managing for somebody else is not something I want to do. And I think that when you manage it, if the owner has a vested interest in seeing the property managed well, I think that we're going to be able to manage a little bit better than having a third party. And it's not to knock any third parties out there. It's just if things get challenging, which they can from time to time, that the owner is willing to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work. But and your question regarding syndication and prior to syndication, what it looked like. I mean, my wife and I we kind of bought into this like pseudo Dave Ramsey style dream of like, hey, we're just going to save every penny and like live debt free, and had this like sacrifice mentality. And, I'll keep in mind, we don't really regret any of that approach. I mean, we were young enough, but we sacrificed, we didn't take the vacations. We didn't have the big house or the fancy cars. We just pummeled like 1.5 of our annual incomes into just buying real estate, traditional way of saving up for a down payment, and just rolling everything in that business back into itself. And, knowing what I know now, we probably could have lived a very abundant lifestyle, but, it taught us a lot of lessons, and we definitely had our skin in the game. But over that first 11, 12-year time period, a lot of that just saving up, putting our own money into deals, and then met some good mentors along the way that, whether it was owner finance types of deals, and, that helped us, kind of escalate and elevate our portfolio from time to time. And so didn't do much of the private lending or hard money lending, any real creative strategies until we left our day jobs.
Got it. So a couple of things. First, sorry, I understood that you did management for other people's properties, but you're basically just vertically integrated and managing your own properties. And did you start doing that fairly early on? I mean, you mentioned you tried. When did you kind of take that step to managing your own stuff?
Yeah. Well, from the beginning. So we didn't know it any other way. We start, the people we learned from, we bought a duplex, then another duplex. They were just mom and pop landlord investors. I really didn't even understand at 24 years old at the time that there was third-party management. I just thought, well, this is what you do. And I'm not handy. My wife is way more handy than I am. I'm like, she would paint, do the repairs. And I like to joke that we scaled because we just needed to hire somebody that was a lot better painter than I was and a lot better at like doing the handiwork. So, we always just sort of self-managed, but saw that third-party management could be a profit center. I mean, you could have shows upon shows as to why that can be a challenging business, but I would just say that I think it was hard at the time to really live up to expectations that owners have of very small multifamily property. So I thought that posed a lot more stress than it was worth, and decided that that's not a business I wanted to expand.
So I manage my own rentals now, and I'm kind of actively trying to get out of that role. So admittedly, I'm very handy, and that's part of my problem, really, because I can fix just about anything, and in the past I just have, but I'm realizing that it's probably time better spent to allow someone else to do that. So whether I just have someone maybe help on the fixes, or maybe I pull on some management, that's yet to be determined. But I can see what you're saying is there's times when the owner has a vested interest, and that's what's so cool about you guys' partnership is if you are the owner and you're the manager, chances are you're probably going to manage it as good or better than anyone else could. And so that's a really cool business model and makes for a good partnership. So let's pretend you guys have a perfect deal right in front of you. So I know that you have some kind of in the pipeline. Maybe we won't share those, but let's just say kind of theoretically, now you're out of Pennsylvania. Is that kind of where you're looking mostly? Midwest, Southwest? Where's kind of your key markets if you guys had a perfect deal come across your plate?
So, I mean, we've been, because Jason being in Pennsylvania and have that, the infrastructure there and everything, that's where we've done most of our deals so far. And it's a little bit interesting explaining to somebody in the Southwest that you should invest in Western Pennsylvania, right? And like, where? But then they start looking at the cash flow and everything. It's like, wow, that's pretty awesome, right? And and Jason has seen the ups and downs through booms and bust cycles over the last 20 years, and it's been very stable. So that's a very good argument for people to invest in that market. Yes, it may not appreciate as quickly as other markets, but you can be guaranteed cash flow from day one, right? We did expand to Cleveland, Ohio, which is an hour and a half from where Jason lives. Last December, we closed a 104 unit portfolio there. So that's kind of our next natural market to expand more there, because it's a bigger city, a little bit more well known, and there's if you buy in the right areas, there's some really good upside there. Beyond that, we've partnered with some of our students in various places around the country. So that's another thing we're looking at. I know Jason did a deal in Texas, and we're looking at a couple of other opportunities around the country like that. But we got to be strategic around it, so we don't just bounce around everywhere and have a deal here, there, and everywhere. So, if we are like the general partners and running that deal, it has to be pretty strategic. So I think other places in Ohio may make sense because it's relatively close in the same state. But beyond that, we don't have a specific target market, at least not something we discussed. Maybe Jason have a different idea, but that's kind of how it's very organic. And it's like, if you keep getting good deals coming across your desk through the broker relationships, through, seller relationships, the last deal we're going to close next week is from the same seller. I think this is the third deal that we're buying from that same seller. So there's some opportunities there that we can keep capitalizing on. It'll be hard for us to go to Phoenix or Dallas to try to compete with people that know that market in and out, right? So let's focus on the niche we're in. Let's focus on the market that we know really well, that we can have that advantage. So that would be my take. I don't know if Jason had a different opinion.
I love this format because it's like, what do you think now?
Now the pressure's on. No, I like to echo what Jens said. I mean, Erie Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania was a natural start because we had, inroads and opportunity here. Based on the size of the market, you end up running out of opportunity, frequent opportunities to buy. So Cleveland, Ohio was a great progression. We're still vertically integrated there, being so close that we can self-manage. And I guess the theme for me is that, I love the secondary and tertiary markets. I mean, that's not to say that we wouldn't buy something in Chicago, New York, LA, Dallas, whatever. But I think that, 2008, 9/11, COVID, I mean, all these things that are like national, international problems that come up that can affect the real estate market. What I like to pay attention to is the markets that stay somewhat resilient. We might not have this huge upside in terms of, like huge appreciation, but what I like is cash flow. I mean, it's one thing to have money in the bank, but you're going to spend that. So that, we invest for cash flow. So I think, the Cleveland, Ohio's, the Buffalo, New York's, Rochester, El Paso's, like various, I mean, just using those as examples, but some of your, secondary, tertiary, and even smaller markets, if you have opportunity, for decent management, a lot of those markets react the same, have similar types of tenant bases. I mean, a small market in Texas certainly is different than a small market in Pennsylvania, but a lot of the same fundamentals apply, as it relates to real estate management. So I think over time we can do pretty well in those types of markets. And again, they're going to be fairly resilient against these like major economic upheavals. And so that's the one thing is that, whether we're investing our time, our money, our energy, and reputation, we don't want anything to really derail that. So, you want those properties to be able to stand up against the stress test of something major.
Yeah. And I think, I would imagine it's an easier sell to investors as well. You say, hey, you're going to get this % cash on cash, and here's what you can expect, at the exit. And yes, the appreciation may not just blow you away, but I think if you're a passive investor, that could actually be kind of a benefit too. It's almost like this is somewhat more predictable. Of course, it's always a risk, right? But if you can say, okay, over time you've seen it, and it's the cash on cash is there for investors, that seemingly would be a pretty cool thing to sell to them as well. So let's switch gears here. You guys both are coaches. I'd love to hear how you both got into that and what your experience is, with coaching, and then what pushed you in to start coaching.
Jason, you want to start?
Sure. So I had over the years, oftentimes, so I guess let me back up. I'm an active board member on our local RIA, and current president of that. But I've been involved in that for about 16 years now. And based on that, the role that I have, I would always have people calling me to get together for lunch or ask advice, on investing in real estate. And so I always had this itch to give back, help educate, and be a mentor to those coming up in the business. And so I'm just really grateful for the mentorship relationships that I had formed with the folks that helped kind of bring me along. And there were times where my wife would say, you need to start charging for your time. You're giving away so much information and helping these people out, and they're going out and building multi-million-dollar businesses. And I had really marinated heavily on starting a coaching business or a thought leadership business at some point. And I was part of this mastermind group where the leader of it had said, hey, I have need some coaches. My coaching business is taking off. Is anybody interested? And so this is maybe 3 years ago. I said, yeah, I'd like to take a few students on. That's an itch that I'd like to scratch. And said, okay, here's some coaching students. And so that's kind of how I got into it. So I do some coaching for that person, and do some on my own that just kind of come organically. For me, what I really enjoy is that whether it's, new or experienced investors, is helping people like either change their mindset, enhance their mindset, and just help them get to the next level in their life. So that may be, buying more real estate and making more investments. It may be, hey, how do I leave my day job? Or it might just be, how do I take better care of myself from a health perspective? So just, really being a sounding board and helping them figure out that they have the power within them to make the change in their life that they want to achieve the goals they want to achieve.
Yeah, that's so cool. We'll come back to that, but Jens, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually similar. So I was coaching for the same organization, if you will. That's how I started. Well, let me back up a little bit. I've always been interested in teaching. So I did actually teach a little bit at a local community college in New Mexico when I lived down there. I didn't enjoy it so much. It was part-time. I kind of quit that. But then I was a manager at work, and I would actually really enjoy the sessions where I would share knowledge. We even started working on some mindset stuff with the people that reported to me, and they all loved it. And I really felt like this was a rewarding thing. So how can I take that to the next level? I didn't quite know what that looked like. So then when I got the opportunity to start coaching some students, just like Jason, the same individual I asked him and said, what would it take for me to start coaching for you? And after I did my first syndication, he's like, okay, I think you're ready. So he handed me a couple of students, and I started just kind of learning from that. I mean, this was kind of like a little bit jump in the deep end and start swimming and figuring it out, right? It's and initially it was kind of like that status coaching, like, what are you doing? What are you working on? What do you want to do next type thing, which can be helpful to a certain to a certain point. But as Jason said, you need to go deeper, because you need to really start figuring out, what is this person's motivation? What is he or she trying to achieve? How can they get more clarity around their future, around energy, productivity, and influence? And as I got more excited about that, I thought, okay, how can I serve my clients better? And I then came across the certified high performance coaching through Brendan Burchard, and I started working my own coach, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, because that just changed my life. And so I actually signed up and got certified in that program, if you will. And that framework is so powerful to help people move from wherever they are to whatever the next level is. Because a lot of people come into real estate and they think, oh, I want to invest in real estate. And in reality, that's not really what's going on. They just want a different path. They want to try something new. They're stuck. And they may realize that real estate is right for them. They may realize it's not, and then change their path. And if people can get to that point, it's super rewarding, right? So I love taking people through that discovery, just to be better humans and a better version of themselves. And if they get a few deals along the way, that's a bonus. But that's kind of where I'm focused on now. And I love that, and I spend a fair amount of my time doing that as well right now.
Yeah. So this podcast is basically dedicated to mindset. So it's so interesting because every guest has something different to say, but it seems like every guest, I've kind of come to this circle where you say, okay, yes, real estate is powerful. And obviously all three of us love it. We all enjoy just all parts of it. Right. But one thing that you asked me, and very early on, was, sure, you like real estate, but why? And then it just kept, like, you asked why, I think like 12 times in a row, because the point was, yes, real estate is cool. And yes, it's good. If your goal is to have more money, but what are you going to do with that money? Right. And what are you going to do? Let's say it's time. Let's say you want to have financial freedom. So you have a little bit more money, a little bit more time. What is your goal with that? And that's what's so cool about coaching, is you can look in and say, wow, I just don't know, but think about it. And you can get to that point of discovering something. And then Jason, you mentioned that it's cool because people will find the power within themselves, kind of like, and it's amazing the power that people have that's undiscovered. That's, so I just finished a book. Jens, I keep kind of giving you all these shout outs. So this is kind of like this is a good coach podcast too, but it was a coaching book. And in there, it was basically, you are all that you need to be, basically. I mean, it's kind of like helping someone discover the power within. So that's really cool. And I've kind of become kind of a sold on coaching, pretty hardcore. I mean, I really, really enjoy it. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. So the next segment is questions that I ask each guest. Feel free to dive as deep as you want. So we'll kind of just bounce back and forth. Jason, you can answer first. The first one is, do you have a morning routine?
Yes, and lately it's tough because my son he's he's on the high school rowing team, and they just started 5:30 a.m. practices.
Oh, ouch.
And I'm not a miracle morning kind of guy. I like to I left corporate so I didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. But so my morning routine, actually, it is very good. I get them to practice and I go for my run early, and then I start my exercise habits a little earlier. So I do have a morning routine.
Jens, how about you?
Well, unfortunately, I do get up at 5 a.m. or fortunately, I'm not sure. And actually, my dogs wake me up now, so I can't even probably sleep in. But yeah, I caught on to the miracle morning very early on in my investing career, or whatever you want to call it. And I realized I'd always been a guy that would like roll out of bed, get a cup of coffee, and drive to work. And the agenda for the day was other people's agenda. I would be super lazy in the sense I'll just look at my emails, like, oh, what's my email telling me I'm supposed to do today? And no intention around what I was supposed to accomplish. And if, I've been in IT, if there was a problem to solve, it's like, yes, now I know what to do, right? And if I didn't have a problem to solve, I kind of lost. And I realized that was such a reactive way of living my life. So I stepped back and I found a miracle morning, listened to Hal Elroy on a podcast. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Got the book and have been, I can't remember if this is 3 or 4 years, not like every single day, but pretty consistent on that. It's changed a little bit, but it's usually 5 a.m. And it's usually 15, 20 minutes of yoga or core exercises, 15, 20 minutes of journaling. And then I will admit, I don't do a lot of meditation or visualization, but more like either study something new I want to learn, or maybe write some articles or blog posts and so forth, right? And now having, been stuck at home for the last year, it's been more like 2 hours before I then go to work, if you will. So it's been super awesome, and so that's, but I think the key thing is to set the intention for the day and make sure you focus on yourself first. Get the things, you just say, what do I want to achieve today versus just relying on other people's or reacting to other people's agendas for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard the analogy, you guys have probably heard this a million times too, kind of like the airline thing was put your oxygen mask on first before you help someone else, and that's kind of what you said was take care of yourself first before you serve others. And you're probably going to be in a better position to do so. And the other thing is you kind of map out the day, that seemingly just helps a ton. Okay, next question. Jens, you go first this time. What books are you reading, or what books do you recommend?
Wow, there's so many. I think one book that actually changed my life was The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Just excellent principles to live by in your life. The first one is take 100% responsibility for your life. Don't, and it seems very basic, but so often we are like blaming other things or events for what's happening to us. If we turn that around, get out of any kind of victim mentality, we have the power to change it. We can either change our the way we think about it, or we can change the situation we're in, right? So that's such a powerful thing. I love that book. But there's so many others. I mean, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard is another great one, and I could go on. But those would be, if you're looking for mindset, if you're looking for to change the way you look at life, those would be 2 books to start with for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Jason?
2 books that I probably gift the most that have had such a huge impact, not only on my personal life but business life. One is Poor Charlie's Almanac. And it's this crazy thick book, and it's a compendium of all these speeches and writings of Charlie Munger, who most people, if they don't know who Charlie Munger is, he's like the right-hand man to Warren Buffett, and everybody knows who Warren Buffett is. But Charlie Munger is like this legend status, and he's kind of known for his humor and wit. But those 2 have been extraordinarily successful and have these ridiculously simple yet powerful principles that have guided their investment strategies over the years. And what's really interesting is there's strategies around business. You can apply that to your personal life. The other book that really had a huge impact on me, and really kind of helped me in my personal and business life, was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And so that came out, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago. And I gift it often. So if you don't have it, give me your address. Don't have all your listeners. Actually, some of your listeners can hit me up, because I still have a whole bunch of them, but that I could give away. But the idea of the compound effect is the small daily habits and small routines is what contributes to massive success. I mean, that's not to discount massive action. I mean, sometimes massive action, creates big results, but you become 50 pounds overweight by eating, just one Twinkie. But a Twinkie a day and not exercising for a year might get you 10 pounds overweight, and the next year another 10. And it's like the compound of all these small things. But if you run 3 or 4 miles a day, you're not going to get fit in a month or two, but it's that continuing with those small habits and those small changes. And it's, it kind of speaks to the importance of the small things making all the difference in the world. And again, that's not to discount massive action, because sometimes you have to really just decide to do something, but it's that little stuff, like getting enough sleep, making sure you drink enough water, like all of those, those habits that create, that kind of, create success, and not just business, but personal life as well.
Awesome. So a couple of things you said I loved was, one, you gift the book. I mean, that's a cool way to answer the question. So I haven't heard that yet, because, a lot of success I'm seeing is it kind of comes back around at times. Like, if you're willing to give, or if you're willing to offer some value, then a lot of times that can open a door, right? So to give a book, it's such a simple thing, but what a cool thing to offer to someone. So I won't send you my address. You can send it to other people, but I'm going to go out and buy the book. But that's really cool. And thanks for sharing, you guys. The next question, we'll let Jason go first this time. I always say this. So I wrote this as, what is the biggest mistake you've made that we can learn from? And the very first guest, I said, it's not really a mistake. It's a learning experience, right? So let's just say, what's the biggest learning experience you wouldn't do again that we can learn from?
Well, in business or personal life, what do you?
Yeah, either one. I mean, I think anything that we can, the listeners can take and say, thanks for the tip. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. It's basically just kind of like, what's something, had you looking back, would you have done differently, perhaps, personal or business? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, this probably ties into both, because it affected, my personal life and affected my business life. But, when starting out in real estate investment, I was so obsessed, just, was so driven by, wanting to, just singularly focused on building this real estate business that, just didn't take time to stop and smell the roses. And I think that, as I, over the years, I became familiar with the principles of success and personal development. And the more, like now, I joke around that, hey, it took us 20 years to build a portfolio of 1,000 rental units, and we'll add 1,000 units this year in the blink of an eye. And, I think some of the reasons of that is that, now sort of in the flow that things come to us by trying to work on yourselves, you be the person you need to be to attract the success into your life. And I think early on, it was just so much outwardly focused, and trying so hard to try and, I don't want to say be something we're not, but it wasn't natural. And when I realized to sort of, more, kind of sit in the flow and be, just in this kind of Zen, I would say Zen state, but, where you're, things are coming to you, they're much easier, and not obsessing over, making every last penny in the business or getting every last deal, just really trying to enjoy life and live a bit well-balanced life. So those early years, it was just, out of whack. So then, your friendships suffer or your family life suffers. And I think, you can be the biggest success in the real estate world, but if you don't have a family to share that with, or friends to share that with, or anything else, you're just going to be the richest man in the graveyard. But you have to you have to have a well-balanced approach to life and take care of yourself, take care of your family, your relationships, things like that. So yeah, I mean, I was out of balance in those early years, and I think that's that notion of burning the candle at both ends, where sometimes we get really busy right now, but because we can find that balance, it doesn't really throw your whole life out of whack.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yep.
All right, Jens, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, a few thoughts were going through my head when Jason was speaking there. And I think the one thing I settled on, and this is also a little bit around the mindset, I have been a bicycle racer for 20 some years. And you wonder, what does that got to do with anything? Well, that was all about how well I could do in comparison to others, because cycling is mostly, hey, it's, there's one winner and everybody else doesn't win, right? And I was always so focused about being better than other people, well, in the racing. And then, I realized at some point you cannot control what other people can do. I mean, maybe that guy is training twice as much as you do, and whatever you do, you cannot beat that person, right? So going into said, well, it doesn't really matter what the other people do. It matters what I put into this, and think about really the effort that I'm willing to put into something in order to get the results that I'm looking for, and not focus on be better than others or beat others or anything of that nature. Much more like, hey, if I know I've done the best, if I've known I put everything in my ability into this, then the outcome will come, right? So I think really what the idea here was, it was a mindset shift around, this is not about being better. It's not about beating other people. It's not it's not around competition. It's around focusing on, where do I add the unique value to a situation? How can I, especially around partnership and building that, it really comes down to just the idea of, what is the person I want to be? Where's the value I can add? And how can I really help grow the community and grow my partnership, versus thinking about how I can be better? So I don't know if that came out okay, but that's really been the shift in me. That is not about, it's not about what I'm doing personally. It's about the team we build. It's about the synergy that we create. So I think that was the mistake, if you will. And I think my initial deals was all about, well, I want these deals and I want to do it myself. And I realized very quickly that was not going to get me anywhere in the time I wanted to. It was going to get me a very slow approach, I guess.
No, that's awesome. And it did come out well. I mean, it because it translates to so many parts of life, right? And we can kind of, you kind of tied it into multifamily there at the end. It's not about you. And this is what I will kind of return to. Partnerships are so valuable. And what I love about the multifamily space is that seemingly everyone's kind of cheering each other on, so that's really cool too. It's kind of this community, and it's not really so much about you. Whereas lots of investors start out with that, okay, what can I buy? I can afford an 8-plex, and how can I save up to get the next one? When if you kind of work as a team, seemingly you can scale quite a bit faster. So I think, thanks for sharing, Jens, because it translates to all kinds of life, including your investment part. And then Jason, I think the one thing I wrote down that stood out to me was basically what I heard was kind of slow down, right? And enjoy life. And that's such a good tip. So I appreciate you sharing. And I got a tip last week. Someone said, you're better off to spend 30 minutes talking to one broker than talk to 6 brokers for 5 minutes. And that type of thing that hit me pretty hard. It kind of resonates with what you're saying is, it's okay to enjoy life and take action toward that goal you have. And it's possible to do both. So thank you both for sharing. That's awesome. So Jens, I'll let you go first on this one. Next one is, what mindset tip or tips can you share with someone who's just starting out? And it doesn't even really have to be in real estate. Someone who's starting a new endeavor, perhaps. What's a cool mindset tip that you can share?
I think really clarity is the first thing, right? I don't know if that's a mindset, but don't just choose something because you heard about it on a podcast. This sounds cool. Let me go for it. Get extremely clear around around the why behind this. And you mentioned that earlier, how I'd ask you all these questions. Because if you are not committed to that through the long term, through the ups and downs and the hard work and everything, you're just going to give up when it's like, this is too hard. Let me just give up and try something else. So the key thing here is be super clear about why you're doing this and what the life is going to be. What is the vision for that future you're creating for yourself, right? So start with the end in mind, not just, because I didn't do, admittedly, when I started, like, oh, real estate sounds cool, let me start buying some. And it was not until later I really figured out why I love real estate and why it makes sense to me. So I think the step back, figuring out, is this the right thing? Because you can make money in so many different areas, different disciplines, and you don't have to invest in real estate, and don't do it just because you think that that's the cool thing to do, right? Make sure that this is something you're going to enjoy, and enjoy the journey. It's not a destination, right? So that's really what I wanted to share there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, Jason.
I think one of the big things I see with, saw it myself and starting out, I see it a lot with newer investors, is just be patient. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the process. I mean, some people come in and they have that eagerness and that desire, like, I want to own 10,000 units. And it's not, I mean, hey, somebody's got to have big goals. It's okay to have big goals and you should shoot for the moon, but you want to set yourself up for success and really define, like to Jens's point, with being clear and having clarity around what it is that you really want. Do you want, and if you want bragging rights to say, hey, I own the most units, you're going to be chasing ghosts. I mean, you're just going to be like chasing infinity, because there's always going to be somebody bigger, better, faster, better looking, richer, whatever. There's always something that you're not going to beat. So be clear about what it is you really want. Is it bragging rights to say you're a real estate investor, or is it cash flow so you have the freedom to travel the world and spend time with your family and, not work a 9 to 5 or whatever that is. So, but be patient with the process, that it does take work. I mean, in the age of social media, there's always somebody that seems to have like started something yesterday and all of a sudden they own 1,000 units and they have this and that. And it's so easy to play that comparison game. So be patient. Don't compare yourself to others. Somebody said it to me recently. They said, comparison is the thief of joy. And, to Jens's point, when he was talking about comparing yourself with cycle, in cycling, like, yeah, there's always somebody that's going to beat you. So don't be doing it as a competition. And you can, but I think that's like, that's a frivolous pursuit. You're not going to, you're never going to win. You're always going to beat yourself up, and there's always somebody has more, and it becomes this, and it's that feeling that you never have enough. So realize that, you have enough, even if you're just starting out, you have enough inside, you have everything you need. The universe will provide whatever it is you need. So be patient. And like some of the professional sports teams that tank, they say, trust the process, like, but in this, like, trust the process. If you have a coach and you sign up for coaching and you learn the content, trust the process, follow the playbook, put in the effort, and success will come your way. But oftentimes, overnight might mean 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is. I'm sure, Jens, when you're starting out 5 years ago, you're like, oh, this is just taking a while. And that probably seemed like forever. But you look back, you're like, hey, it took 5 years to leave your day job. That's pretty quick in the scheme of life, right? So I just think, you got to be kind to yourself. And if you're comparing yourself to others as a benchmark, that's probably going to be the biggest thing that I don't want to say it will derail your success, but you're going to feel like you're not good enough, and it can weigh on your confidence. So, if you have to take a break from social media to avoid comparing yourself to others, then do it.
No, those are both awesome tips. Thank you both. The next one we kind of touched on, but I know you guys have in the past, but do you currently have a coach or a mentor, and has it been worth the time and investment for you? Jason, we'll let you go first on that one.
Yeah. So I've joined various masterminds, real estate and non-real estate. over the past 10 years. So I have like a local real estate group that with some guys. That was the first mastermind group that I had. I have one that I put together, but a few that I've paid to join to learn and share with others. But I over the past year or two, I kind of had this unmet need where I'm like, gosh, I need to, I need to either join a mastermind group or have a coach that's like, mindset, like life related, not just real estate. And so I do have a life coach, and I have a standing date with her every Friday afternoon. And we talk about all these other things that help integrate, mindset into all areas of life and help keep me well balanced. And it's one of the best hours I spend every week. And of course that translates into a lot of other self work, but it allows me to work on myself in other ways that makes me a better husband, a better father, a better business partner, a better boss, and all these other things, and just a better to myself too.
No, that's so cool. How about you, Jens?
Yes, I do have a coach. I mean, I joined the real estate mentoring kind of program, 3 years ago, whatever, which was great because it put me around people with a similar mindset, and also a little bit of that leveling up, not comparing myself to others, but also get a little bit of motivation. Say, oh, these guys are actually doing this stuff. How can I reach a higher level? But I was stuck last year in March, with COVID starting. I was like, man, because I had made a lot of commitments to myself and to my wife around leaving my job, and also we both wanted to move to a different city and other things. And then I just kind of retracted into myself because of everything that was happening. And I think the best decision of my life was then to plunk down some money and get my own coach. And he was not a real estate coach, but he was a high performance, certified high performance coach. And he literally changed my life. Well, I changed my life, but he guided me on the path to change my life, to get to really stand behind that commitment I had made to quit my job, to leave, to just double down on my real estate investing, right? So I meet with him, and it's been over a year now. We meet every week, and he's helping me in so many ways. Since he's also a coach, I'm down that path too. He's leveling up my coaching, and it's been amazing. And as long as I can work with him, I will, because it's just every week there's something new, and it just there's so much growth. There's so much self-discovery. So yes, I don't have a real estate coach, but I have a high performance coach that's helping me every week. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And then there's a 2-part question. So I'll just ask one at a time. What is your guys' definition of success? We'll let you go first, Jens.
Yeah, I would say meeting your goals. That would have been my initial response, but I think really is moving towards something that you find more meaning in, and kind of growing on a daily basis towards that, and really enjoying the journey. Because I hear so many people, they're just so focused on the outcome. And as Jason was saying, there's always something bigger, better, more you can do, right? And if you don't slow down and really enjoy that time. So really success is stopping and acknowledging and finding joy in the things you have accomplished. So hence, after we're done with our recording, Karen, my wife, and I are going to go out and celebrate the changes and the transitions that we've gone through tonight or recently. So yes, that was my definition.
All right. Yeah, Jason, you're up.
Yeah, so I think success to me means the ability to self-actualize, to be able to reach your potential as a human being. So just continuing and never-ending growth in all areas of life. Again, personal, being, whether it's, being a better family member, spouse, partner, kids, like friend, being able to grow as a human being. I mean, that's to me the definition of success. Financial riches. I mean, you could have financial success and be a failure in all other areas of your life. So to me, success is living a well-integrated, well-balanced life where you feel as though you're continuing to grow in all of those important areas of your life, including finances. But that's only one piece of a very much larger puzzle.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you guys. Great answers. So this one's a little harder in my opinion. If someone asks you, why are you successful and others are not so much, what's your answer? Jason, we'll let you be in the hot seat first.
I think for me, the where we're at now with where I'm at in my personal life and my career, I'd say that always continuing to keep an open mind and willingness to grow, to never be stagnant. I think that has helped me grow tremendously as an individual. It's helped me grow tremendously in business, not just as a business owner and a leader, but also growing a portfolio and having financial success. But for me, it's been that willingness to learn, to grow, but also get out of my own way and really learn how to partner up with people. Not just hiring individuals on a team, but partnering up in business to be able to go further together has been a tremendous key to the success we've had.
Well, I love what you said about being open-minded too. I mean, that's not a common thing that I hear. And so being open-minded to something different. So that's awesome. Jens, what about you?
So I would say that my persistence is one of my key traits, right? Because, and this, it probably comes from my cycling career. I mean, I would never give up on a bike race unless my bike would fall apart underneath me. I was like, even though it's the last place, I would just keep going, right? And I feel like just that persistence has served me well in my IT career too, because there's been some really difficult problems that like, man, I got to find a solution. God knows how long it's going to take me, right? And I think just that, like Jason was saying earlier, just don't give up because it doesn't happen as quickly as you want. Don't give up because you don't get the results you're looking for, in the first 3 months. And I felt like I was on the right path, and I was like, man, I'm just going to continue. And every time there's a challenge, every time there's something that I don't know how to do, I'll either reach out to people and get some help, or I'll just study and I'll just figure it out, right? So I think there's a little bit of stubbornness that has just cut me through that. So that was the kind of the key thing, but also, now just being open to these new partnerships, being open to partnering with people that can kind of grow and take me to the next level, right? And early on, those partnerships were a very, very small portion, a very small share of me, but I was like, okay, let me just get the experience, let me learn what it takes, right? And then over time that grows and you start getting into a rhythm with people. So just that, again, that idea is like, let's partner with people, let's see how we can figure this out together and learn from that process.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for sharing. So this has been, to me, an unbelievable episode. There's just so much good stuff. So I hope the listeners get as much out of it as I do. I mean, it's kind of a selfish endeavor anyway. I just get to pick you guys' brains, but thank you both for being here. So how can people find more about you and learn about your coaching and your businesses? So if you guys could tell us the best way to get hold of you.
I can start. So my email is Jens, Jens at opendoors with an S capital.com. And if anybody of you listening want to get on a free call with me, they can go to opendoorscapital.com/call and they can schedule a free 20-minute intro call to talk about investing or coaching, whatever else they're interested in. So I love to do that.
People can find me on social media. So, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I know Jens can be found the same way, but if you want to email, Jason Pero at yahoo.com. You can also go to my website at perorealestate.com and connect with me there. And happy to connect with any listeners if they want to hop on any calls or have any burning questions they want to marinate on.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you both so much for your time. Jens, again, congratulations on retirement. Now's the time to actually kick it in full gear, I'm sure, but
that's right.
Congrats. And that's super cool. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Right. Great talking to you, Eric.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. If you've enjoyed the content today, please follow this show wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to head over to wildoakcapital.com for more information or to connect with Eric directly. Please take a moment to leave a review or tell a friend about what you've listened to today. We hope you'll tune in again soon.